Hello everyone, this is Kavya and I am from ANETS Vishakhapatnam. This is a small walkthrough of my maze using client and server program. Now what is a maze problem? Maze problem consists of a maze which consists of some blocks where each block can represent either a 1 or 0 like this as it is shown here. If a particular block is 1, it means that we can pass through that block. If the particular block is 0, it means that that particular block is blocked and we cannot pass through that block. There is no path to that block. In this program, there are some constraints. Here we cannot move diagonally. We can move up, down, left side and right side. Here this program is done using client and server model. The client can only access the file. The file consists the following information. It contains number of rows, number of columns, the maze values, then x1, y1, x2, y2. Here we'll be given x1, y1, x2, y2 and our task is to find whether a path exists between x1, y1, x2, y2 in the given maze, and if the path exists then we need to print the path in the file. So the client first reads the file, then it collects all the required data from the file and send the data to server so that the server process the maze and see whether the path exists or not and sends the obtained result to the client so that the client writes the result into the file. In this way, the client reads the data from file, server process the data. Now let me show you how I have done this problem using client and server and what functions I have used. Initially I have opened the file in read mode which contains the required data, and I have read the data from file, that is I have read rows and columns. Here using client and server I have used mainly two functions, send and then receive. Send, it sends the data. Here in this particular context, send sends the data, that is number of rows and number of columns from the file to the server. When the server receives, it sends an acknowledgement called dummy. So it receives the acknowledgement dummy which makes the communication complete. Next it should read the maze values from the file. In this way it will read the maze values. It will convert numbers into characters because we can transfer data between client and server using only character buffer of some fixed size. Here I have converted the numbers using some helper functions. Then I have sent the data, received the acknowledgement. Now I need to read the coordinates from the file. I have read x1, y1, x2, y2, put them in some buffer, send it to client server, receive the dummy, that is the acknowledgement from the server. Then the server meanwhile processes the data and sends the result. Now I cannot send all the coordinates in single buffer because sometimes the number of coordinates will be more than the buffer size. So I'll send each coordinate x1, y1 in one send function. The server sends x1, y1 coordinates, I mean the path coordinates, the client receives it and sends an acknowledgement. This loop runs till all the coordinates are complete. I have kept a base condition depending upon the buffer I receive. Now let us see the server function. In server initially I have received rows and columns. Then I have allocated a memory to maze which is the array, and to keep track of all the blocks whether they are visited or not I have allocated another array that is visited. Initially all the values are equal to zeros. Now I have received the coordinate values. Then I have acquired all the values required to solve the problem. So I have called a function called isPathExist. isPathExist is a function which initially checks whether x1 y1 is equal to x2 y2 or not. If it is equal, then it means that the path is there and it then backtracks the process. If it is not, it checks whether a particular cell is valid or not. When can we say that a cell is valid? A cell will be valid only if it is between x value between 0 and rows, y value between 0 and columns, and that particular value of mesh should be 1 and it should not be visited. Visited is equal to 0 means that particular block is not visited and needs to be visited. Check whether the path exists or not. In this way, as I said, it can move either up, down, left and right. I have 4 recursive function calls here, which checks the blocks up, down, left and right blocks. If there is a path, it backtracks. If there is no path, it returns 0. Let me run the code for you. First run the server. It will be waiting for the client. Now run the client. Yes, it shows the path. Now let us see. Initially I have shown you the file which consists of only rows, columns, maze, x1, y1, x2, y2. Now it should also contain the path. Let us see the file again. By using all those functions I have implemented client and server, and see our file, the data has been appended, yes the path exists and this is the path required. Thank you.